introductory comments, similar to what I said before. As a courtesy, everyone's had their cell phones off. In addition, action taking on conditional use permits requests will have taken effect 5 working days following this meeting, unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission decision is filed with the Planning Office by Monday, November 3rd, 2014 at 5 o'clock. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission for a hearing on Tuesday, November 18th at or after 9:15 a.m. Final action will be taken on the text amendment, will also be heard at the November 25th meeting. This time, the Planning Commission will consider the joint consent agenda. The minutes of the September 22nd meeting are included in the consent agenda. Are there any objections from the Planning Commission members to any item on the consent agenda? Hearing none, next I will read each item of the consent agenda. If any member of the audience objects to the item, please raise your hand, and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Okay, so let's start with the consent agenda. Item 1 is approval of the minutes from September 22nd. Item number 2 is conditional use permit number 1445 to allow a medical waste transportation facility on the property legally described as, basically this is the Renner exit, right?
And Dominic Street.
Dominic Street on Renner exit. Any concerns or objections to that one? Next,
I was just curious what they meant by medical waste.
there currently is one up there, similar to the organizations up there now currently.
They'll be, I guess you need to pull it then and we'll have to discuss it.
I'm curious, I work in healthcare and I was just curious about
That's where all those biomeds are taken up there and sterilized and all that
would
stuff.
be going through that, or?
There's a facility currently up there that basically uses microwaves to sterilize all that stuff. It's
I see.
packaged and goes to Sioux Falls
Yeah.
Regional Landfill.
All right.
This they transport out of state. They're not taking to the landfill, but it's similar.
Nice.
So it's amazing what stuff that is around. You say, okay, so that's all right. Item 3, we have a conditional use permit to exceed 1,200 square feet of building area. Petitioner is Barbara Juergens, and is located in Skyberg Addition in Split Rock Township. Any objections to that one? Property owner is Janelle K. Cole, his co-owner. Item number 4, we have conditional use permit 1447 to exceed 1,200 square feet of accessory building, requesting 2,112 square feet in Walker's Addition in Benton Township. Ryan Carlson is the petitioner. Owner is also the owner. No objections from the audience. And item number 5, we have a conditional use permit 1448 to allow a daytime dog training facility on the property in Skyberg's Addition, which is in Split Rock Township. Petitioner is Ryan E. Jordan. Property owner is Darla A. J. Paulson. You'd like to move that to the regular meeting? Okay. Item 5 will be moved to the regular agenda. Item number 6, zoning text amendment 1404 to allow keeping of fowl in the rural residential district, Article 4.0 of the 1990 revised zoning ordinance of Minnehaha County. Anyone concerned about chickens in the county? If not, we will go to item number 7. Conditional use permit to allow 1450 to allow vehicle and equipment sales on property legally described. This is in Bowers Addition, which is a dense industrial park right south of the Hartford exit, Hartford Township. The permit is MTT Sales, Angela Johnson. Property owner is John Hansel. Any objections to that? Seeing none, we'll move item 5 to the regular agenda. We have a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, so any of the items except number 5, you are approved and free to go. So number 5, the daytime dog training facility will be added to the regular agenda.
Okay. Unless you're here for the dog item.
We'll support
Not
it,
directly,
you
but
got
I'll, okay.
We'll stay in support of it. We'd love to have you stay.
So
Okay, so now we need approval of the regular agenda with the addition of item number 5, correct?
So moved.
So moved. Second to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And then we'll turn it over to staff and we'll start with item number 5.
Good evening, David Heino, Planning Department. Conditional use permit 14-48 is to allow a daytime dog training facility. As you can see here, right here, it's about 3.5 miles southeast of Brandon, right along 265th Street, just straight east of Highway 42. The owners, Angeli and Ryan Jordan, are the owners of Flight Dogs, which is, they're requesting a conditional use permit to allow a daytime dog training facility. As you can see here, I'll skip forward to the site plan. This indicates right along 265th, just off here, would be the parking area, and actually to the north of the building that they have right here, which I'll move forward in just to give a reference of where everything will be at. They're proposing to have a 40-foot by 60-foot outdoor dock with a non-slip outdoor carpet and a 4-foot wide ramp to help the dogs out of the 4-foot deep pool, which would be a 33-foot by 18-foot above ground pool. So the site plan also indicates a future fenced-in area that would be just north of the building, an extension just as a holding area for if one of the owners needed to go to the bathroom or something like that along the lines. The dock, it also has a vertical rig for vertical training and is set up for speed retrieve training. Dogs that jump at or over 23 feet can still use the pool, although they are required to jump at a mark that's a little bit further back on the dock for their own safety. Specifically, the pool is a training pool where dogs can learn technique that will help aid them in competition. The Flight Dog Training Facility will be open from April through September, which the Flight Dog Club members can use the training dock and pool, which is located just outside Brandon at this location. The classes will be held once a week for 4 months of the year, as I mentioned, during the summer months. A 4-week session, Introduction to Dock Diving, will be held on Thursdays in May, June, August. Another 4-week session, Advanced Big Air Vertical Speed Retrieve, will be held on Thursdays in July. Both of these sessions will be limited to 6 dogs. The petitioner has also indicated that they would have no more than 6 cars at the property or in that parking area, which I've been out to the site and it seems like, I don't have a picture of it. I wish I would have taken a picture of that while I was out there, but it seems like there's adequate space for about 6 cars and maybe no more than that without having to utilize the space on the road. So just some of the criteria that we go through with conditional use permits. Here's just some of the images. This would be where the pool would be located. And this would be where that future fenced-in area, as you can see the stairs right there that would lead up to the dock, which is, I guess right now is a deck. So some of the criteria that we go through in determining conditional use permits is the effect upon the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate vicinity for the uses that are already permitted and upon property values in the immediate vicinity. So the addition of a dock, above ground pool, and a fenced-in area for holding should not have a significant impact on the use and enjoyment of other property, nor on property values in the immediate vicinity. Number 2 is the effect upon the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The general area around this site is primarily agricultural with a few acreages mixed in the immediate vicinity. So the proposed additions to the property should not have a negative effect on the normal and orderly development of the surrounding vacant property for uses predominant in the area. The utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities are provided. Access will be provided via the property owner's driveway, which as the parking area would be right off of 265th Street, so no further infrastructure will need to be provided other than the petitioner stated that he would bring in a load of gravel just to have that parking area leveled off. The measures are taken to control offensive odor, fumes, dust, noise, vibration, and lighting, inclusive of lighted signs, so that none of these will constitute a nuisance. No offensive nuisances shall be permitted at any time during the use of the proposed structure or as the daytime dog training facility. The dogs will be kept under supervision by the owners who are expected to assume full responsibility for their pets and children, as the owner has spelled out in the narrative that they have provided. and that all lighting should be directed downward in order to prevent direct spillage of light off the property. So staff recommends the proposed flight dogs, training dock, and pool as an adequate accessory use to the continued use as a residential lot. Staff recommends approval of conditional use permit 14-48 with the following conditions. The conditional use permit 14-48 shall permit a daytime dog training facility, that the hours of operation shall be open to the public from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., that the proposed use shall adhere to the submitted site plan dated 9/25/2014. All waste shall be disposed of in conformance with the solid waste ordinance, that all lighting shall be of a full cutoff and fully shielded design directed downward to prevent light pollution off of the property, that six parking spaces be provided in conformance with Article 15, and parking shall not be permitted on 265th Street at any time, that a building permit is required for the training dock and above ground pool, that a building inspection is required prior to the commencement of operations. So with that, I guess I ask if there are any questions from the commissioners first.
I had one, unless somebody else has anything else. The question I had, David, is why on the conditions, I thought there'd be a condition which would specifically state that there shall be no boarding of dogs other than those owned by the petitioner. I mean, because that's usually what people are most concerned about is, it becomes a boarding kennel, and especially if there isn't a requirement that the boarding has to be done inside, it becomes a noise issue with a lot of people, even though it's out in the country. So that was the only thing I had. We'll get to you in a minute. So that was the only question I had. Okay, no questions? Thank you, David. We'll let the petitioner come forward and we'll answer all the questions that we need. So, would the petitioner please come forward and state your name and address, please? Okay.
Ryan Jordan, 1417 Creekside Circle, Brandon, South Dakota.
Okay. And you can tell us a little bit about this, any of the conditions, or address any of the conditions that were put forth? Or?
No, I agree with all the conditions that were put forth. To answer your question, we do not want a boarding kennel facility. We just wanted a strictly daytime flight training, outdoor training. I don't want to be, we don't want to be responsible for having a kennel or noise complaints or anything like that, because we just don't want to, honestly, we just don't want to have a kennel there. We want to be there only from short amount of time during the day. Our proposed time that we initially set forth was from 6:30 to 8:30 in the evenings, or early afternoon in the evenings. And it will be.
Any questions for the petitioner? Okay, if not, someone else in the audience want to address this, please? Thank you.
I'm Rocky Loose Rock. My address is 26493 483rd Avenue, which my backyard faces back at what they're building there.
So you're the place below?
I'm down the valley and on the other side.
You're up over here?
Oh, you're up over
Right there.
You're about a quarter mile away?
Yeah, 1,000 feet, something like that.
He's just to the right of where that mouse is at. He's in between the top road and the bottom road, right smack dab in the middle. So he's not quite far northwest of where you're thinking.
It's right off of the white.
Okay, so up in there.
Yeah.
Trying to get it over there, it doesn't want
You want me to do it?
He's above it, he's 1,000 feet north of it, okay.
He's right above the S and subject.
Right there is my.
Okay.
Oh, right
Oh,
there.
okay.
Okay,
Okay,
thank
and
you.
there's a valley down between us,
Draw.
so I mean, I have a clear view of
Sure.
where they are. My big concern is if they have 6 dogs jumping in the pool, the other 5, one will be jumping, the other 5 will be barking. I mean, there's nothing more annoying than barking dogs, and the neighbors have dogs, they'll join in, and I guess that's my big concern. I don't know how I address this is, I mean, if they have a permit to do it, my complaints will just fall unheard. And the other problem I have is he doesn't even live there. I mean, shouldn't that be part, if you're gonna run a business on an acreage, shouldn't you be living there? I mean, it'd be like me going to Brandon and say, hey, you wanna bring your business out to my place? You can have cheap rent. I mean, I think you're straying away from the intention of a home business, especially when it's going to affect other people with the noise.
So, picture here. So there is a residence there though, right?
There's a residence there, but it's not his.
Okay.
They're parents.
Any questions from me?
Okay, any other questions of for Mr. Lusbrock?
I would hope that some of the other neighbors would say something, but it kind of pits neighbor against neighbor is the problem
Sure.
with these
It's
things.
understandable. Thank you. Any other comments? Yes,
Yes.
state your name and address, please.
Josh Jurgens. My address is here in town, 49 South Willow. My mother is Barb right here. She's the property strictly to the west. Although I kind of agree with Rocky's concerns on some of the sound issues and stuff like that, my question is how exactly this is going to be built, if there's going to be a fence and things like that. With the way of the land, as you walk out of my mom's house, the first thing you see is right behind their barn is going to be this structure. If it was placed differently, which I know right now is probably not very conducive for how they have it, because half of it's built. Essentially, you're going to see dogs jumping right off in there. She has horses. Again, they're going to be all dogs bark, hers bark. It's a noise complaint. It's just kind of what we're going to be seeing on that side of stuff. I just don't want that to be a whole nuisance. And then the other issues proposed is that street that they're on. There are so many people that do not obey the speed limit in the first place, that do 65 down that road. I have two nieces that come out to mom's place. I have two kids myself. I know surrounding everybody has kids, so that's one thing that in play is more cars that we might not need coming down that way. Just kind of my couple concerns with that kind of thing too, is just making sure it's not quite a nuisance from everything that's coming around.
So as I look at this picture, your mother's house is immediately next door.
Yeah, I know you guys have another picture if you want to go. So, yep, this is her house that you can see right on the left side of this photo. And you can see her barn right there, where that is at. And I'm not sure how high this current structure is that they have.
So her house is right here?
Correct, yep.
And this is her barn right here?
Yep, that's correct. So that's where number 3, I think, was on the agenda. She's adding stuff on there just to get some things out of the way so it doesn't clutter stuff up. With the structure that they currently have there, that they built this deck, it looks like it's already maybe 10 to 12 feet high, which means if you want to not have, not be able to see it so much or have issues that way, obviously you have to build a bigger fence that way. Again, I'm just kind of thinking out loud in that sense, but.
Are there trees? Is that a tree line between the two properties?
Yeah, but
They're
not
young?
quite as tall as I am. They're 4-foot trees at best, so that's not doing anything. These properties are close enough together that, you know, when these guys are out and grilling and enjoying themselves on the deck, we can hear them in the front yard, and I'm sure it's vice versa with that, so it's very close that way. I'm sure when our dog barks, it gets annoying, and vice versa when it does happen. Again, it's a farm place, whatever that's going to happen, but kind of, again, the noise issue and just what could come of it, I'm just kind of worried. Even if there are only 3, 4, 5 people out there, or vehicles, I should say, that's out loud. So.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, with that, we'll close the floor. Commission comments, quite any additional information on requests or action?
Is there anything I can add to that, or kind of?
Sure, we'd like to hear from the petitioner again. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead, step forward, please.
It's mainly just to kind of answer some questions that I was taking notes. As far as the barking dog goes, I completely understand, and that would be very annoying for me as well. But the only time that they'll be out there is when we're out there from like 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at most, and so it wouldn't be all day long. It would just be the evening hours if there was. But we would be very strict on how if it got too loud, too noisy, out of control, we have rules. We do have rules set in place where we would ask them to leave or go home. As far as the visual, he's right. It would be about 12 feet high. The base of the deck, the dock, is or the floor is 6 feet up with a railing of 42 inches. There are some trees in place. I know they will fill in. They'll continue to grow taller over the years. As far as cars speeding by or more cars coming through that area, if they're going to the place right next to us or our proposed location, they would be slowing down before they get to their driveway to make the turn in there. And I guess that's all I have.
How big so the pool, is that just like an above ground pool?
It's an above ground
4
pool.
foot deep or
It's,
something like that?
48 inches high. That's a 4 foot deep pool.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
Yes,
say,
Becky.
Mr. Chair, I
Becky,
have
he has
a
a question for
question.
you.
Yes.
So the training of these dogs, have they been trained prior to enrollment in your school as far as barking and becoming overexcited and stimulated?
Not,
I mean,
not necessarily trained, but a lot of our potential members are part of the American Kennel Club, and so they go through general obedience. So all we would just ask them to control their dogs, and if it gets too far, we would just ask them to leave for the day and try again.
Thank you.
Anything you want to add to that?
Well, I guess I was just gonna say, this is mainly just for business, correct?
Yes.
As a personal duck diving pool, we would be using it anyway, so we will have my dogs out there. So if there was,
So how often do you actually anticipate having people out there?
well, I don't think it's gonna be a lot. I mean, there's only a few months out of the year. I don't have a lot of members, and I don't want a lot of members. It's going to be very controlled, and if there are things that come up where there are problems, we would just split them up, or maybe there's only a few of them that come out at a time instead of a big group of them. That would help with the barking, if we do have some barking. So.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, if not, thank you. You have one more comment, and then we're going to close the floor,
Yeah,
please.
I just had one.
You have to step
slight-
up so they can be recorded.
Apologize, Josh again. I guess I wasn't sure if I just didn't hear or misheard. How big is the actual pool supposed to be and stuff like that? That's in question to be in place is what my thought was. So, I guess
17 by 30.
17 by 30.
Mm-hmm.
My wife would love to have that in our backyard. Anyway, I close the floor. And we, commission, action, questions, motions? Yes?
Question, Mr. Chairman. The gentleman here brought up the issue of, if there is a noise concern going forward, is there a right to the nuisance because the conditional use permit has been granted? Any experience with that?
Question with Scott. I don't understand what Mr. Lusbrock's saying, because when big old Toby a quarter mile away from me barks, I can hear that. We have a little dip, and you can just hear it coming right across, especially in the morning. Fortunately, he moved down the road one house. He isn't there anymore. But,
Well, that's that it's going to be tough to enforce barking dogs because it's not. Typically, we only do that kind of enforcement if it's after 11 p.m. Then it's
Okay.
then it's considered a nuisance. I mean, if you have dogs barking at 8 o'clock at night, it's not really considered a nuisance. However, I think we can deal with this. If it's a conditional use permit. Now we're talking really two different things, because one, a barking dog, a residential barking dog, is a barking dog, and it's not enforceable as a nuisance. Operating a business, you can address it, but I think these people are all correct. You're going to have barking dogs, and it's an outdoor facility, and so I don't also want to have something in there because I mean, we need to, if you're gonna do, add a condition that deals with barking, it needs to be pretty specific, because I don't wanna be going out there every night because a dog barked. And, you know, and that's how these sometimes that's the neighborhood dynamics, is that they'll call if there is a dog barking. And, I mean, there's gonna be dogs barking, I would imagine. So if that is something that concerns you, then it's probably not appropriate.
Okay. So the question maybe was, we can't legally permit a nuisance, right? Any action would have.
No, we can't legally permit a nuisance, but
Right.
it comes down to, you know, what would constitute a nuisance. I mean,
And you said that after 11 p.m.
after 11 for a residential dog
Residential.
is a nuisance.
Okay.
Is 4 dogs barking because they're excited and having fun, whatever, I don't know. I mean,
Understand.
I don't know if that would be a nuisance or not. I guess that would have to be decided legally in front of a judge if it went that far.
And so, Scott, I think the other point you're making is that because this is a conditional use permit for a home business or residential business, the conditional use permit also provides a lever on behalf of the Planning and Zoning Commission if there are a series of problems.
Yeah,
That the
certainly.
conditional use permit could be revoked.
If it's not meeting the conditions of approval. But I think we're going to need to, if you're going to add a condition about barking, it needs to be crafted carefully, because, you know, that's just so wide open
The best way to do that is you limit hours of operation. That's
right.
That's your, and we don't, those conditions do not specifically state.
8 a.m. to 9 p.m.
Which seems very generous according to what they're asking for. I mean, they're asking for being able to have classes in the evening.
Well, you can always shrink those down. You could say 5 to 9 or 6 to 8:30. Well, I mean, but I think that's something that you guys, as a planning commission, can discuss with the applicant, and you can whittle those down. And I think that certainly there's gonna be barking during those couple hours. I mean, I don't think you're gonna get away from that.
Okay. So I would like to ask the petitioner then, okay, so if we put time limits, okay, what's your current, you gave us some time, but it's not in the conditions currently.
8 a.m. to 9 p.m. currently, condition 2.
Yeah, it is.
What am I looking at?
You're looking at the wrong one.
I might be looking at the wrong one, yes. I may be.
5.
I thought it was just-
Page 11.
Recommendation.
Oh, there we go, okay, thank you. Okay, there we go, okay. 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., okay. So what were you thinking of hours then? What would be a potential thing that you would look at if you're gonna limit it? You're gonna stop at 8:30?
I was going to say 6 to 9.
I think we should ask the
Yeah,
petitioner.
let's ask
Yeah.
the petitioner, please, if you'd come forward, please, again. Let's just talk about hours of operation, what you anticipate, you gave us a few ideas,
Okay.
what you were thinking, and what were they?
How was it you're right there, from 6:30 to 8:30? That would
Well,
be
I
our
mean,
open
6
dock.
to 9 is fine.
6 to 9.
Okay.
Meaning in the evening
Yeah.
only? See, that limits it a whole lot
Right.
from what you've got here.
Some Saturdays.
So there, at least 3/4 of the day would be peaceful. Okay. Does 6 to 9 sound appropriate? Would that be satisfactory? We try and accommodate everyone. We're trying to address his concern with barking, trying to address to make sure it's worthwhile for you.
Can I
Can
say-
we
It's
do
gotta be
for
realized.
Saturday?
Can I say something?
Yes, we'll let you. Just give us an idea of your time, and we'll have Mr. Lusbach say something, please.
On Saturdays, we were hoping to we extend it for the afternoon.
Like noon until 6,
Yeah.
Yes.
or noon until 8. Okay. Good. You write down those times, somebody, noon until 8. And then the rest of the time, that's 6 to 8.
I'd like to go to 5 instead of 6.
5, okay. That's a little bit tight.
5 p.m.
Sure. Work time.
Yeah, work time,
Okay. 5, start at 5,
Start at 5.
go till 8, or 8:30.
I think he said 9, didn't
You
he?
said 9.
9.
So 5 to 9.
Yeah.
5 to 9 in the
Week-
weekdays, and
Weekdays.
Saturdays, noonday,
Weekend.
8 p.m., and then Sunday.
Would be nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing
Nothing.
Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday. You're right, isn't it? I'm fine with that.
Okay, and then we'll ask Mr. Lusbrock, who wanted to make another comment, so fair we have time to say something, please.
You want me to go?
Yes, yeah, you have to come up by the microphone, so we need to record your comments for posterity.
You know, you're talking about running a business. You know, the landscape place had to be done at 6 o'clock at night. Now you're talking about evening hours when everybody is home and outside. I mean, if it's gonna be a business, it needs to end at 6. I just disagree totally with it, what you're saying. 9 o'clock at night for noise is acceptable. Not when your family's outside or on the deck. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay, so I think we've heard enough to close the floor. We're looking for a motion for action. Further discussion, please.
I'll move approval with those extra hours limited of 5 to 9 weekdays and noon to 8 p.m. Saturdays, no Sundays, along with all the other conditions.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I guess I'm going back to their written. I mean, at this point, they're talking about having it one night a week, you know, for 4 weeks, and then in a month, and then a different night for the one in July. So it's a 4-month deal. You know, I think they're trying to do the best they can, and they said, you know, and they've even in their thing, they say if the dogs become unruly, I mean, dogs must be, there's what they're saying, are going to either be leashed or in a crate at all times unless they're actually working, and I know that you only work one at a time. So, I mean, I think they're trying to be as good neighbors as they can. So I think it's that's why I'm supporting it.
Okay. Any comments? If not, we'll move for action. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Okay, no opposition. Motion carries. Okay, next item is there's no new business, correct?
Well, there's some old business.
Old business.
Old business.
Okay. That's right, you had the meeting in Humboldt. I was out of town there.
That too, heavy and humble. And I just thought I'd give you an update on, on the fence.
Hey, the fence is up.
Got those.
You could have given us that. Huh?
You need to take a chainsaw and poles and cut them off.
They're a little tall.
Yeah.
And also our wine person was erecting a big post for, he's gonna have a power gate entering into the facility, which is fine, it'll look nice when it gets done. However, he started building it 6 feet onto the state highway right away. So after they got the footings in, the things are up about 6 feet on each side. The county highway had a visit with them, and that's no longer there, and it's moved back on his property. And evidently he didn't understand what the RW on those little brown poles are along the highway, but that got taken care of rather quickly. So looks like we're cleaning things up, David.
There it is. So yeah, I just wanted to give a brief summary on what happened at the Humboldt workshop. Lucas Lynch, the Secretary of Agriculture for the state, he showed up about 20 minutes after 6:30. So we ended up giving a presentation to Jason Bieber, who's at the city planning staff. And then the rest was, Dan Kistler was there, the building inspector, and then the rest of us staff. So really it was a good, I thought it was a good meeting. It really helped us out in determining where to go with the goals for agricultural preservation, how to carry that forward and manage growth at the same time. The rest of the stuff is actually posted the video minutes online on the website, so you can check that out if you want. Also included a short video on just sustainable development in general and how to manage growth. So we take a big picture worldview into perspective in terms of what we do at the local level. That's about it.
So David, I also believe that Paul Kosbooth from the South Dakota Department of Agriculture gave a presentation to the Minnehaha County Commission regarding agricultural zoning and permitting, and any detail or background on that? Were any of you available?
Well, I
for
was
that?
there at the meeting.
Okay.
That's a project that's going to be worked through CCOG. They are coming in, the Department of Agriculture will be sort of studying the county to look at what areas might be most suitable for animal confinement operations primarily. And they use a number of criteria, soils, water, roads, electricity. I mean, they have all these factors, and they're going to put together some map, which will be beneficial for us to have. It is one of those things that some of the data is good until the minute they publish it, and then when you start having more houses built, you're suddenly changing those setbacks. But the soils, the electricity, the water availability, the topography, all that will stay the same. So I think it'll be some good information.
And I had a chance to actually visit with Secretary Lynch, and he indicated that I believe there are about 30 counties now in the state that have requested the Department of Ag to come in and help raise just a level of understanding, dispel some myths, and to do this kind of baseline analysis. So it's a service offered by the state, but it is by invitation from the county commission.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
David, did you have, how many people from the public? Did you have an overflow of people, or did you have anybody from the public? I mean,
Mr.
Didn't have anybody
Department
show up. He was the only, the Secretary of Ag was the only.
Under new business, we have an update on the ag tourism permit that Kevin worked with, that you were just talking about. I think Kevin will tell you, it was amended at the county commission. He can go over what they did to amend the conditions that came from you.
Yeah, so at the last minute, we received a kind of another letter between the petitioner and the neighbor, an agreement that took into account that the neighbor wanted a buffer zone. So we're going to leave like a 200-foot buffer, I believe, between the property line and the winery, as well as lowering the number of people who are allowed at the public and private events. And I think that lowered down to 250 or something, 275.
Basically cut in half.
Yeah. So those were the two conditions that were added on to.
Otherwise, all the signage requirements and everything else passed. I was good from my standpoint. I went to that meeting. I just wanted to specifically see, okay, the county ordinance says 32 square feet, and are we going to stay with that? Because that's what it should stay at. And they did. They supported it. So, good.
And then the last item of new business, I wanted to just let the commission know that Mark Rogan's term is up this year. It'll be opened up for everyone in the county. Mark, you're certainly letting you know that your term is going to be up, and
Yeah, I knew it
you're
was,
eligible.
last year we had that confusion last
There was,
year. So.
but this year for sure it's up.
Yeah.
So
I can get off for sure, huh?
or
If I
reappointed,
decide.
whatever your pleasure is. But you have to apply, and I'll send out. I'll let you know.
Email me something.
I
or
will.
something, yeah.
But there'll be some announcement or public announcements that go out, and we put it on the website. But I just was going to let you know. And then, David, when is the next meeting for? December 4th, was it? For the next
December 4th is the next task force meeting on environmental stewardship. That chapter.
That's it.
So
That's
hopefully, I want to try to give a little bit more lead time with the next public meeting and try to schedule that one out a little bit further in advance, maybe 3 to 4 months.
can I make
Hopefully
a
that'll
suggestion
gain.
about that task force meeting? Maybe the week before, when you guys send everybody a reminder.
Okay.
Because I think the last time, we didn't have very many people at that meeting, I didn't think. I think there were
I know I
like 4
sent-
of us. plus
I
the
sent
staff.
the chapter out. Everybody should have got that a week before.
Yeah, I know you did.
I think
But
I sent out a
sometimes it's
reminder.
just good
The
for
day
a
before.
reminder
And
of
a day
people,
before reminder.
because I know some people got kids and they got a lot of stuff going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing that, and I won't discuss it tonight, though, the thing that I asked Scott about is, we approved this building eligibility out by Wall Lake, right on Highway 42, and basically it's just a big machine shed, and that's the residence. But when you really look at it, number one, nobody's ever lived there. I mean, it's all done, it's all complete. They got the emergency sign up there and everything else. But when you watch it when they're building it, there isn't 25% of that building that's actually living space. And there's no mailbox, and I don't think you'll ever see a mailbox there. And usually if someone has a residence, there's a mailbox. And so what is a residence? Especially, and now you just have this big machine shed sitting on an acre of land because somebody wanted a storage building and could afford the eligibility to do it. Was that what the purpose of it is, or not? You know, I thought it was just, that one just kind of dumbfounds me.
We get a couple of those. I mean, we get a couple of those. Well, I should say we get about one every couple of years. That's a better way of putting it. We just did that, if you remember, on 26th Street by Oberlin. There's that, you know, we went through, he wanted to rezone it. We said no, or I can't remember. He built a huge, gigantic storage building with a little tiny in that, and then we have one up on 9th Street or 9th Avenue. It happens. You know, if you want to try and limit that somehow, it's sort of like crafting a condition about barking dogs. I mean, if you want to change the ordinance, we're going to have to be very specific on what you want to regulate, because you do have big people that build houses out of metal, and you know that's.
It's a hard thing, because I was looking at, of course, having just been in IKEA lately, I'm thinking, I wonder if they went to IKEA to see how to maximize that little living space.
Well, and we haven't seen any requests here for those, what are they called, micro homes?
Yeah.
We haven't seen any requests come through, and I think actually they don't meet our requirements for living space, but I'm sure in time we will see that. It'll come.
Okay, so the micro is one of those little bitty ones, right?
Tiny, yeah.
Tiny,
so basically, we don't approve a single wide trailer, right?
No, but that we don't. That would be considered a manufactured home, and we may be running into that too, because I think those micro houses are manufactured prefab homes, and it probably will. You know, I don't know how if that meets the HUD code, the 1976 HUD code, which regulates mobile homes as opposed to manufactured homes.
I don't think they do yet, because we don't appraise them.
Yeah.
You don't?
Fannie Mae and no, because Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae.
Doesn't consider.
No, don't consider them.
Yeah.
More like a
Not at
playhouse,
this time. I'm not saying that won't happen at
It
some
might.
point.
So, I mean, I'm assuming we're kind of adjourned, but I have another question. Okay, on the Eros Road, you've probably driven it. I can't figure out what those people are building. They've had a machine shed there.
Oh, the big long thing?
Yeah, they've had a machine shed, and all summer long, whenever we went down to chemo, Mike would say, wonder what they're doing there. And every week, and I finally said, I just got to ask.
Are you talking about that sort of yellow building they moved off Augustana?
No. This is on the Eros Road, and it's kind of on the hill.
Oh, okay.
And then it's a machine shed, so I mean, and then down below on the low part, there's a stock dam that's kind of got a M shape, and then there's a tree planted now on the peninsula.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And then now there's some kind of water, it looks like, I can't figure out what
Isn't
they're
there a
doing.
house back up in there?
There might be a house behind that
Yeah.
shed that I don't see.
There's a house up behind that, behind the shed, and there's like a little hill that goes up there, and I think behind there's a house.
Okay.
But I'll find out and let you know.
Oh, no, I'm curious as much as anything. I don't think there's any violation. I just thought maybe somebody knew.
You've got a little sunroom on the house, and the assessor's already been there twice.